Hi there, it's me, Pin, the person who's pitching. This one's for the writers, Liam and Sam. They were very receptive and very nice, as you will see in this video. Shout out to everybody on DBM who helped me with all the art. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you, Death Battle, again for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. And if I seem really nervous, it's because I am. I also censored my face. That's why you're seeing the spinning Omori. That's my attempt at censoring. So sorry if this isn't the best. I'm not really used to recording. If you are unfamiliar with the matchup or you're unsure about these characters being on Death Battle and you're unsure about the matchup in general, then I recommend just giving this pitch a chance. I think you might really appreciate it by the end, hopefully. If you don't, then that's fine too. As long as you give me a shot, then I will be perfectly happy. And if you come out of this enjoying it, then well, welcome to my side. But besides that, enjoy the pitch. Hopefully you do.
Oh my god.
No one needs to. Yeah, but go for it, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, let me just prepare myself a little bit better.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. So Omori versus Room. This is obviously getting a cast, and it's getting pitched to you guys and Ben and Chad in like a couple hours. So a lot to do. A lot to do. All right. So obviously,
Good that we get to be the test run. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
I just scheduled you guys first because I feel like you guys would be a lot easier because you guys are more familiar with Omori at least. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Like.
Ben and Chad are so mean too. They're just so
They're
cruel.
I watched that Toru 096 pitch and they were just insulting it, and that was crazy.
Ripping it apart.
Yeah. And obviously, there's going to be some heavy topics. Also, for the audience who's watching, there's going to be some heavy topics like suicide, depression, anxiety, and also big spoilers for both series. I recommend playing the game and watching it first before actually watching this, personally. But, you know, the rise can be spoiled. Alrighty. So let's begin. Omori, the god of headspace versus Room, the devil of the complex. So who's Omori? Omori, the game itself, is the newest and popular RPG sensation inspired by Earthbound, Undertale, Off, things like that. It's been in development for a long time. I've been following it for a long time. Omori, the character himself, is the mental manifestation of the main protagonist, Sunny's repression, trauma, things like that. He was created from Sunny isolating himself due to his sister's unfortunate passing. So he's been trapped in his own head for a long time. Omori is like the ultimate guardian of this trauma from his sister. He acts as like a protector in a sort of way. He's kind of like a self-insert OC for Sunny in his own mind, in a way. The game itself and Omori the character started off as like innocent, you know, like it seemed like something was off, but like sweet, kind, childish. But you know, as the story progresses, it turns like sinister and dark as shit. Think of Omori as Kara from Undertale mixed with James from Silent Hill 2. That's how I would best describe it.
Perfect touch point. Just played Silent Hill 2 remake, so perfect touch point.
Omori is RPG Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Wait, but you're not actually trapped in hell in Omori.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
So who's Sunny? He's our main protagonist, obviously. He exists obviously in the actual real world while Omori exists in his head. And he's a sad boy. He's sad. He's also very repressed, as you see from his face. He makes this blank expression for most of the game because he has no idea what the fuck is going on. He barely even processes his sister's actually dead. He's fatherless, but he has a mom. Overcome with trauma, and like the way like the game starts is, it's his final days in his like childhood town with his old friends. So like that's why he has to like leave and see what's going on. Yeah. He goes through a huge journey. There's multiple endings in Omori, depending on what the player chooses to do. But the main one is Sunny leaves his house, talks to his friends, and shenanigans and trauma and depression ensues. But the main endings are, one, Sunny overcomes this past and moves on, and the other, Omori wins and something very bad happens. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what can Omori do? Why is he such a fighter? Well, he's got quite a bit of powers. As I explained before, he's kind of essentially God of the mind. He has immortality. He can manipulate emotions. He's immune to fear. He can teleport. He can banish other people into a pocket dimension. He has like red, realistic hands, kind of like tendrils coming out of his back. They're like red hands. You'll see a better picture in a little bit. He has precognition. Omori has the ability to like look at an enemy and just know what they're gonna do before it happens. He obviously has reality warping. He's not like Scarlet Witch, where like that's like his main thing. It's more like a background thing that happens, but it's important for like debates and stuff. He controls everything and everyone in Headspace. So, in like a versus sense, the problem is when you're like, if this happened, Omori would need an entire universe. It's basically an entire verse under Omori's arsenal. So a lot of characters and a lot of powers. He also has the ability when he kills somebody to turn people to toast. I don't know. That's not explained why. It just happens. I know it's weird. I'm assuming because like they are toasted, but I don't know.
Is it just like they didn't want to show like I mean I feel like it kind of fits with the like trauma or the more so ignoring trauma themes of it, to be like, that's not a dead person, it's toast. Like
that's actually a really good way of thinking about it, because like we'll go into the Headspace in a little bit. Here, actually, we'll just do it now. So Headspace works in multiple layers, and they're like, it's important for debate. So as we see on the left here, this is what base Headspace looks like. It's colorful, expressive. This is where like the fake fantasy comes in, where all of Omori, like all of Sunny's friends, are like caricatures of themselves almost, and like his thoughts, his feelings are all expressed in like characters and places. In the second layer, we have this black area called black space. This is where Omori banishes like the bad thoughts and bad people who are making a muck of things. It's basically like the ultimate torture chamber of nightmares and pain and horribleness. Have you ever played Yumi Nikki? Where the main character?
No.
Okay. Never mind then. It's like Silent Hill on steroids. This is what black space is. And on the right here is red space. This is what I was talking about with Omori's red realistic hands. I wasn't joking. It's basically like the ultimate line of defense between Omori and the truth. And the truth itself, as we see in the bottom here, is Mari didn't die by normal means. Basically, Sunny and Mari got into an argument. He was a little bit of a dick, and he pushed her and accidentally killed her. And one of Sunny's friends, Basil, helped fake her suicide, which is why he was so repressed and trauma-ridden for so long. Which, is very bad. But speaking of Mari, these are like the main party inside of Omori. We have Aubrey, Kel, Hiro. They're like the main fighters. Basil can occasionally fight. The thing with Omori is Mari does not fight. She is like protected. She cannot battle in any way, shape, or form. They all have their own skills and powers. They can't like, they're not on the same level as Omori, but like they're generally pretty powerful. Aubrey's a brute. Hiro's a healer. Kel can like, he has the power of like a nuke. Like he can like build up in power and then punch really, really hard. And Mari is, gone. She's dead. Alrighty. Now, as like I explained before, the endings of Omori. Basically, at the end, Sunny confronts Omori, and basically he has to confront himself, his own pains and trauma, and throughout the entire game. It's very, very, very emotional and pretty painful. On the left, that's where Omori wins. Very bad. Don't think I have to say anything about that. On the right, Sunny overcomes his pain, and for the first time, he actually emotes and smiles. It's honestly very, very, very beautiful. And in my opinion, I think because of like the way the story is and the way the characters are, I think Omori himself needs an opponent that like represents that like overcoming your pain and overcoming your trauma and facing the real world. And I think I have an opponent in mind for that. But before that, any questions for Omori at all?
So Omori never does something in what we would say is like the top level like reality, right?
He can like the problem with Omori, and we'll talk about Room, is like a lot of their feats are interpretational.
Yeah.
There is like a space, like there is like planets in space, and he literally fights what represents as Pluto, which is the planet. So like
Or
he
is
can.
Pluto's not still a planet?
In my heart.
I just the actually came
Shut
out so powerfully.
the fuck up, Sam.
I know, it's so terrible. I was like, oh god.
I didn't want anyone to call me out on that, but you did. Damn it.
Yeah. So, but like obviously, Omori's not actually destroying the planet Pluto, or else it would be on the news, correct? Like for their world.
He did beat Pluto. He did, but like he's not actually the size of Pluto. So Omori is either like in terms of like raw physical power, like wall to planet, small planet, I'd say, and like but with like the reality warping powers and stuff, I'd say like multi because of like the cosmology and headspace. But if you just want to say it's all
small planet. That's a crazy spread.
Yeah,
wall
a little
level
bit.
and small planet level.
Yeah.
All right.
He was honestly the easier one out of the two, if you can imagine.
I think I can, because what I know of Room is wild.
It's about to get wacky. So hold on to your seats. So who's Room? Room is the mental manifestation of the main character Oriel's self-hatred and depression. He was created from Oriel isolating himself for years due to his self-destructive tendencies. He is the ultimate inflictor of Oriel's pain and trauma. His main mission is to basically keep Oriel in a sense of constant state of misery inside of the complex, which is his headspace. The thing with Oriel and Room, though, is they started off as like monsters, like it's just horror and another like web series scare factor. But as the story progresses, it's actually like slowly revealed he's very sad, but in an innocent sort of way. He's not like a pure evil monster that's just out to destroy everything. They're not two separate entities. They are the same person at the end of the day. And to better explain that, I'd compare Room to Venom mixed with Pyramid Head. Like Room like encapsulates around Oriel. He like becomes him like Venom and acts like Pyramid Head, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I don't need to go on tangential questions about Pyramid Head and whether or not
it's just like a general vibe kind of thing.
I get you.
I had no way else to describe it. All right, who's Oriel? Oriel is our true protagonist. He exists in the real world, but enters his own complex when he's sad. He had a boyfriend, which started like the big main conflict, but they either broke up or he died. It's not explained which one. Oriel, overcome with self-loathing and repressed feelings, needs to confront every part of himself inside of the complex and all the feelings he can't handle on the inside. So the complex itself is like Headspace, but all the characters, every single character is like a representation of Oriel's feelings. So there's a character called Dogtooth, who is the representation of Oriel's rage, his anger over everything. He's like a big protector. He's a really cool character. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can Room do? Well, he's kind of a demon. He has immortality. He has a really cool ability where if he sees somebody, he can copy what they do. Like he did to this dude in the bottom right. I don't know what he's doing.
Sock puppet?
Yeah, that's the complex, the embodiment of the pain of the complex. Room grabs him, does something with his eyes, and then he explodes. It's crazy. Room has like laser eyes, and that also counts as like flashbangs. He can teleport. He has levitation. He can banish other people to another dimension. He has black realistic hands. He can shapeshift his body, as we see in the top right. He has reality warping. He has information and law manipulation, and he has a cross gun sword. So basically, Room can have a cross sword as an arm. Pretty simple stuff. They have like more. He has more powers, but this is like the basic stuff that you really need to know.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's meet Angel. He is the ultimate puppet master over the entire complex itself. He is like, he might be like an actual angel. He basically scales above the essentially what's the dreamscape, and he views Room and Oriole as the ultimate puppet to carry out his desires of controlling human consciousness. um, why he's important is because during one of the episodes, while Room was trapped in the hearth, which is essentially a place of pure pain and misery, Angel gave himself like a piece of himself to Room, which is why Room has this white face. That is a piece of Angel, his actual face.
Is that why Angel here in this image doesn't have like eyes? He gave him like that part of his face.
Yeah.
Cool.
Gotcha.
His ultimate desire is to control the puppets and people inside of the complex, similar to how Omori does. So yeah, he's not super important to like the actual like lore of Room, but he's important to like the scaling side of things. But what is the complex? What is that? As we can see here, the complex itself is like human. It's like headspace itself. It's a human consciousness in headspaces. Oriole's headspace is really powerful because Oriole, in my opinion, Oriole was an artist. I misunderstood one at that, so it's way more complex. Inside of the complex, it's an entire universe, similar to how Omori's is, and also has the hearth. The hearth is essentially black space, but for Boisvert. Room has the ability to put people inside of it and put himself inside of it if he chooses to. And what's going on the far right here and why it's broken is the crazy scaling that Boisvert has is Room kind of broke the cosmology. Which is why, like, when you watch it, everything's so weird. Is just, like, certain episodes make sense what's happening and certain episodes make no sense. Is because Room broke how the laws and realities work inside of the complex. He opened portals into other complexes, and he basically fucked everything up because he killed this dude.
The sock guy.
Yeah, the sock dude. He killed that dude, and that broke really everything. So yeah, multiversal levels in terms of power, which that's pretty crazy. And he can also go into other people's heads, like complexes and stuff. In terms of endings, Boys Verse is still like a series that's still going on, but Rooms and Oriole story is basically concluded. What happened is Room got killed, and Oriole and him split apart. Room like came back to life and is now effing shit up with Angel, and that's the new continued story. But he's not like the same Room as before. He's like classified as the entity, but that's not super important. On the left here, basically in one of the episodes, Oriole comes to the conclusion that he doesn't need to be in suffering. The people in his life are gone, and it's hard, but he needs to move on from it. He can leave from the complex. He can exist in the real world and function. Very similar to how Mori's ending was. In my opinion, I think Room needs an opponent that also reflects the story, that overcoming your pain, overcoming your trauma, and accepting reality as it is, despite everything bad that happens. But I know, like, obviously Boys Red is a series that's like, can that really, like, should that be in Death Battle? It's kind of a personal series, and you know, that was a big problem with a long time with the matchup, is nobody knew if it should be in Death Battle. But this is for your guys' eyes only. This won't be for the audience. I actually got in contact with the actual creator of Voicevert, and he has approved the matchup and Room on Death Battle.
Whoa.
Interesting.
So yeah, I sent you guys a link to the doc if you want to read it in more detail.
Yeah, I did.
So feel free to do that. I showed him a couple of Death Battles that he haven't seen before. Goku vs. Superman 3, Gutsumi and Scooby Courage.
Yeah.
And he liked them. So that's good. And he thinks Room wins, but he's biased. So
yeah, obviously a little. Cool.
Any questions for Room?
Yeah, maybe a few. I don't. So, is Room an antagonist of?
Yes, I would.
Yeah,
It's kind of debatable. he acts like an antagonist and a protagonist at the same time. Like
I mean, Omori is similar, right? Like, but obviously, Omori, if you can like consider Omori as a character in and of itself, their like goal is to protect Sunny. It's just them doing that is ultimately going to hurt them more, right?
Yeah.
Is Room like falling in that same line, or are they more antagonistic?
They're more antagonistic for sure, but in a similar line as they start as they have the same like goal of I want to do this for this character only. While Mori's is more like I'm going to help you in any means necessary. Room is I want to hurt you in any means necessary.
Yeah. So
I have a question.
What's up, Liam?
What is the woof woof woof?
Yeah.
Discord comment?
I saw that and I was just like, I don't know what's going on down there.
You don't got to worry about that. You don't got to worry about that.
Okay.
Do I?
So, yeah, I guess. How do you see the actual fight then? Like, because like it takes place, and both these characters are, if their real world counterparts died, they'd be gone, right?
Maybe for like Sunny, yes. If Sunny died, Omori would bite the dust. Wario, maybe I would say yes, probably.
Okay. Yeah. How do you see this happening then?
That's a great question, and a perfect segue. Thank you, Sam, into the potential of the fight.
Okay.
So I know it kind of
I'm
seems
ready
like
for it.
It kind of seems like this, a little bit.
Yeah.
Where Room's by himself fighting an entire universe, which that doesn't seem very fair in a lot of ways. But they actually scale pretty evenly towards each other. And honestly, Room can just punch once and kind of kill everybody but Omori.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not. So it's more like animation potential. Omori can bring all these characters in, which is pretty crazy. But primarily, you want to focus on a 4v1. As the actual fight itself, I think that the startup should be Room enters Sunny's headspace, like because he can actually do that, and it would make sense. He would do that, I assume, for initially like antagonistic reasons, because Omori is kind of like the opposite of him. He's sort of like I made the parallels to Angel because he's like that. So what I would assume is Room would view Omori as a threat in a lot of ways. Or at least Angel would send Room to do that. And it could start off as like Room confronting Omori and a 4v4 starting where, obviously the other three aren't going to be much of a threat to Room, just more of like distractions for Omori to gauge what this creature is. And it can get to even crazier stuff.
This fan art is awesome.
Oh yeah. Shout out to everybody on DVM for providing amazing fan art for this matchup, for this pitch. Yeah. So I think it can move on after those three bite the dust. Is more of an isolation where I should probably say this. Room talks a lot, and Omori doesn't really talk. He talks a little bit towards the end of the game, but not that much. But Room is a chatterbox. He never shuts up. So it would basically be Room trying to gauge what's going on with Omori, because these two have never fought something like each other before, really. And it's going to be definitely a psychological battle at the end of the day. While they do have lots of powers and abilities to to counter each other, a lot of like the ultimate debate comes down to the actual characters and their mentalities. Because they obviously both have immortality. They can survive so much. Room can copy abilities. He's way stronger. Omori's faster. You could talk about like the abilities all day, but I like that the debate actually comes down to the actual characters. In terms of more animation potential, obviously we have the arm thing going on with Omori's red arms and Room shape shifting. I think that could provide really cool animation potential. Also with the reality warping, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and like also in terms of animation, I think this could have multiple styles, similar to like Billcord, but it actually like a lot of Omori and Room stuff has realistic portions of the fight. Like obviously Omori has the realistic hand stuff, and Room does live action bits all the time and 3D and sprites. there's almost no style that wouldn't work for the battle. You could do anything. You could do 3D sprites, live action if you want to somehow. Yeah. So yeah, there's a potential here of Omori throwing planets at Room, which I think is pretty hilarious. He doesn't actually do this in the game, but I just think the concept is pretty fucking funny.
He could, yeah.
He could do it, technically. He doesn't do it, but he could do it. Yeah. I think the really cool thing about the matchup is the reality warping and Room shape shifting. Room is more of like an animalistic fighter. He acts way more aggressive, and Omori is like way more skilled and calculated. I think that could be really showed off during the animation, where obviously Room's ripping Omori's friends apart, and Omori's just studying this creature that's invaded his mind. What would happen though is like Omori would attempt to banish Room into black space, and Room can just punch out of it.
Right.
You know, like in Marvel's What If, when Ultron busts through into the Watchers area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically that.
Yeah, it'd be basically like that.
So obviously these two characters, like the complex and the headspace, are kind of like dream verses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also still exist when the like reality level character is awake, right?
Yeah, like especially in Oriel's case, like the complex still is going on because that's collective human consciousness. And I would say it's comparable to Sunny, but it can also exist when they're both asleep. So you could just say that Oriel and Sunny are sleeping and Room invades headspace. Like that's how I would do it. I think that just makes more sense. The thing with the fight, and a lot of people have a problem with Omori in Versus, is they don't like the idea of Sunny dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. A lot of the fights with Omori and a lot of the matchups have the other character killing Sunny, which kind of sucks and kind of goes against the themes of the character itself. Because I think Omori can die, but Sunny doesn't have to die. You know?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to read more about it, I really recommend this script, which I will link in the email. I'll send you guys the email.
Cool. Thank you.
By my good friend Saul. He does a really, really, really good job explaining the potential of the story, and also like for the cast, whoever's going to debate. There's also a blog on the matchup that goes more into it.
Helpful.
Yeah. So because obviously I've explained basically the bare bones of it. There's way, way, way more. There's also a little animation here. If you guys
run it.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I've actually seen that before. I'm almost positive I saw that on like Twitter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have not. This is my first time. That's great.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, by Maple Riot. Very, very, very cool person. He's also making a 2-minute animation for the matchup too.
Cool.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, interesting.
So why do this one? When they like both of the characters have a ton of matchups, why do I want this one in particular? I think not only from the analysis itself, the characters are very, very similar to one another in terms of their powers and how their character arcs go, and like I think like the general vibe of their series is meshed really well. From the cutesy horror from Omori to the more realistic horror of Room. I think the styles mesh really well. I think the characters mesh really well. The interaction potential is great. I think from like a writing perspective, since you guys are the writers, I think the character interaction can be great. I think Room can talk through the whole thing with his like weird speech the way he has it. And I think the most impactful moment when Omori talks to Room and like tries to whittle him down, basically like kind of deconstructing his entire character, because like he does do that to Sunny. I think that would be like a really, really cool, impactful moment. And I think that this matchup best represents the idea of moving on from the past. And while your fears and your pain and your trauma can cloud your mind for so long, that you can grow past it and you can move forward from the pain that's happened to you and the loved ones you lost. And this is a special message to you guys. Thank you guys so much for allowing me this opportunity. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, please.
These
You didn't allow anything. Thank you.
I was really debating for a long time if I should pitch this matchup because there's so much to talk about here. And I was debating between this or Frisk Batter, and I chose this ultimately because 2020 was these characters came out in 2020. 2020 was like a really, really hard time for me and a lot of people. And Omori and Voicer and Death Battle itself helped me so much during it, more than I can even say, and it honestly pushed me through to like safety and happiness and health. So supporting you guys was the least I can do after so much you helped me so much. And that's why I think this matchup means so much to me, is because it's a series of comfort, pain, and moving on. And it's almost like the antithesis of Death Battle itself. It's like a fictionalized fight where you want to see these two characters fighting, and it's almost like a fantasy of it in itself. So yeah.
These are the kind of fights that make me, because I think like really the dream of making this episode, where if it wasn't, we were so like litigious isn't the right word, but the word I'd say right now about like one character wins. I think like the best timeline is like they have some big clash, fade to white, come back in, and it's, you know, their real world selves meeting and becoming friends, and that helps like end it, and there just is no death, right? And I think that's like the ultimate correct ending, but also that's not the show. So it's like one of those things, right, where it's like we kind of want to have that, so it's weird. But I think maybe, I don't know, we've already heard so many pitches where it's just like I feel like we need a different type of ending sometimes to appropriately like capsulate things that are the story's more important than who wins to this, right?
Yeah,
I think it should be, at least. And so I don't know, that's a really ethereal thought for this,
because this fight actually can have one of those endings. Like, it can't end in one of them killing each other brutally. The ending should be the two real selves in a white space meeting each other.
Yeah.
And depending on, like, if Omori wins the battle, Room will fade away. Like, Oriole will fade away, and he will be left alone standing. If Room wins, I think the opposite should happen. Now, this fight could genuinely have a stalemate. So what could happen is that they hug each other and then just move on. And that could be it too.
Yeah. And we also could have the opportunity for either the most tasteless or well-placed BetterHelp ad ever.
I think that is pretty tasteful.
Yeah, I don't know which way it is, but
right in the middle of the fight.
It should. I mean, there should be some notes about it. Yeah, it's great, man. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you so much for thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.